We talked to you Friday back in Renton, but it became apparent Kupp wasn't going to play. Did you get a sense that you might have opportunities tonight like you did with Cleveland?
Yeah, just something that we kind of harp on in the receiver room. You just always got to be prepared for, when your number is called. It's unfortunate, but that's the game we play. Players go, players go up, players go down. You just got to be, prepared and ready to, step in and pick it up. So, just the preparation within the week and making sure I was on top of my game was, what my mindset and head was moving forward, leading up to the week.
Sam completing 17 straight passes. Have you ever played with a quarterback in your football career that was that locked in?
Oh man, nah, not really. Sam, he plays with that chip on his shoulder. He's always bringing his A game, and you can tell how bad he wanted. So, from the whole week preparing, we knew he was gonna be dialed in, and she was one hell of a quarterback. He's on fire right now, and it's only gonna get better. That's just how we prepare. That's just how we carry ourselves as a team, and just having that mentality to always get better. So.
I think that second touchdown, the route you ran to beat the safety there. What can you say about that play?
Just some of the reps that we kind of did at practice. We knew that they played a lot of corners over and things like that. With that nickel and just trying to make the most out of your one-on-one battles, and that was just something that we kind of got, and that's something that we practiced on, and just made the most of it. So at the end of the day, it's just the preparation that we take in, and make sure we're dialed in and making sure we on top of everything.
As a receiver, preparation, can you talk about the competition to help each other, whether it's in the receivers room or you're going against some of the better DBs?
Yeah, I feel like it plays a huge part in all roles. Our scout team, practice squad, they do a great job of giving us looks. They're just as important as the active roster, and we count them as the active roster because they are the ones who get us ready for these games that we play. And it's huge kudos to them to go out there and give us those looks and play with that much effort. So we're not slacking and making sure we're on top of our game. So it's a huge shout out to those guys who come every day to work, and just like I said, the preparation in the receiver room, and just offense collectively, even the whole team. We all prepare a certain way, and we want to make sure we go out there and compete at the highest level.
You mentioned practice squad. See Cody White come up, do what he did, and get that touchdown. I mean, how excited were you guys for him?
Oh man, we're juiced. Like I said, the practice squad, those guys, they go out there and compete every day. They play with they all, and it just goes to show. Cody White stepping up, and we knew he was ready. I feel like every guy, on our team is ready, practice squad or not. I feel like we're all ready, and whoever gets called up, we know that they're going to go out there and compete, and they're going to make plays just because of how we practice and how we roll. So I feel like him making that play, it wasn't no surprise to us. We were juiced, but we seen him make those plays, and we were excited.
Tory, I know every win matters, obviously. Now you go on Thursday night, Sunday night, Monday night. Does the mean anything more when you guys do it in the Nationals probably?
I feel like we try to keep it the same. We don't try to let the day or the time and our lights get too big. What we kind of go by is it's another day to go out there and compete. Of course, Sunday night is always great to have that opportunity, but we just want to take that approach of every game. It don't matter if it was Sunday, Thursday or Monday. We just want to go out there and have that same mindset as if it was the Super Bowl kind of. That's just the chip that chip on our shoulder that we got as a team to go out there and just play with our heads on fire, and that's what we kind of went out there and did.
Who sets that mindset?
We got some great leaders. We got some great leaders, and we got vets that kind of set that tone for us, and we got a bunch of young guys who is picking up from those vets, and we're all bought in. There's nobody left out, and we're all on the same mission, which why I feel like this team is so it's so special, and coaches and all, even the staff that's on board. I feel like we all just bought into one mission, and that mission is not going to change for us. So that's how we go about our days.
I'm sorry if you were asked this already, but were you guys aware, like in real time, that Sam had completed so many passes without throwing an interception?
Nah, we wasn't even aware. We was just flowing. We kind of get into that flow. We know Sam's going to make those plays, and that's not new to us because, he shows that at practice. And, when it is some of those, plays where, it may have not looked good or it wasn't, it wasn't how we wanted, we make sure we go on attack and, make sure we get that right. So, him going in and doing what he did, that's no surprise to us because just how much he prepared and, just how much we collectively go out there and, compete.
Your first score, you were secondary read, right?
I'm sorry, so what?
Your first score, you were secondary read, right? The short
if it's like that, I don't know, but we kind of just take that mindset of always trying to look at yourself as that ball's coming to you. So second or third read, I just wanted to make sure I gave him another outlet, and that's just kind of how the offense roll. Make sure we give him that outlet to place the ball in the right spot.
As someone who plays this position, just how impressive is seeing what Jackson's doing every week?
Oh man, he's great. It's just me being that young guy coming behind him and Coop. It just everybody that's in that room. He's doing his thing, and it's a lot of his game that I try to watch and take just piece by piece from it. On how he maneuver through routes and get separation. And, just his run after catch ability. That's something that you can always learn from. And even with Coop, just how his mentality on the game and how he maneuvered through things like that. So I'm truly blessed to be behind those guys, and I pick their brain whenever I get a chance. If I got questions or if I see something, I ask them how they read this and how they release or run the route based off how they how they plan. So it's always nice to have those guys in front.
Tory, how are you feeling the way that teams are defending Jackson right now? How are you feeling that make an impact on what's available for you downfield?
And I don't know. I just feel like it's opportunities for everybody. We know Jax is having Jack's doing Jax. That's all I can say. He's making plays. He's doing all he can, and he even came up and said it's gonna be times where teams are gonna try to X him out and do things like that. But how we roll in the receiver room, win your battles. It may be games where it's gonna fall upon another player to go out there and make plays, and just like I said on how we prepare, we just make sure we always on top of our game. So when your name or number is called, you make sure you're on top and making those plays. So that's how I feel like we roll.
Last question, Ari.
Yes, you and Nick came off the field saying it was the rookie game. What was it like watching him get his first touchdown?
Yeah, it was great. Just us coming in as rookies. That's just something that we always talked about, just making an impact. It didn't have to be a huge impact, but just making some kind of impact. And I feel like that's something that we kind of harped on a lot as rookies, making sure we don't let those vets down. And that's the last thing we want to do. Is go up there and they it's in our hands, or it's up to us, and we let them down. That we never want to be those kind of rookies. And seeing Elijah get that touchdown, and Nick on defense making plays. We got a whole bunch of rookies. Ricky getting caught up and being ready to play. It means a lot to us rookies. Make sure we don't disappoint our vets, because we know how much they put into this game, and we want to make sure we play our role and play our part, and just contribute to the team. So yeah, rookies. We said it's the rookies' game. That's just us talking, making sure we contribute to the team.
Thanks, Tory.
Yeah, thank you.